Namaste and greetings. Thank you, blessings, gratitude, all that good stuff to all of you at the Amani Center. It is such an honor and a pleasure to be able to be with you in this virtual world. Now, let's breathe because it's time to dive in. You know, I only have a certain number of minutes to make sure that we cover all of the material that I want us to marinate in and enjoy and use as the invitation for our next level of expression and experiencing the divine. So today's title and theme is Yes to Joy, liberating our inner child. Now, if we're going to really receive the invitation of what this is saying, then there are a couple of questions and answers that we want to explore, such as, what does it mean to say yes? We say it pretty often, but do we really understand what saying yes means? Joy, what is it? We sing songs, joy to the world, but what exactly is joy? Joyful, joyful, what is joy is my question. And what does it mean? And why would I even want to liberate or experience my inner child? What is the significance of that? So let's start with saying yes. What is yes? Yes is an affirmative answer or decision. Affirmative prayer. What is affirmative? Affirmative is agreeing with or consenting to a statement or request. You get that? Agreeing to. It is being supportive. It is being hopeful. It is encouraging. So agreeing with or consenting to a statement or a request, a concept, a paradigm. Now, based on this, then, the invitation is to identify, what are we agreeing with? What are we consenting to? What are we supporting and encouraging? Well, what are we agreeing with? Are we agreeing with lack and scarcity, separation, discord, dis-ease, disharmony? What are we consenting to? Are we consenting to disrespect, covert narcissism, microaggressions, etc.? Well, what are we supporting and encouraging in our lives? Are we supporting and encouraging a belief, a paradigm, or a consciousness that has a separate and anthropomorphic God sitting on some cloud somewhere, ready to judge and condemn? Is that what we are supporting and encouraging in our lives? Are we supporting and encouraging poverty consciousness? What exactly is it that we are agreeing to, consenting to, encouraging and supporting within our lives? Because that's all saying yes. Now, then, okay, what is joy then? Joy is a feeling of great pleasure, satisfaction, and happiness. Okay, so where does joy originate? I mean, like, can I go to the corner store and buy a box of joy? Don't say anything about, dishwashing liquid. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about joy, joy. Can I go to the supermarket and buy a box of joy? Is joy some external thing? No. Joy is within us. Joy is us. We don't need anything external in order to have joy. In other words, there are times where people say, well, I'll worry about joy when I retire, or I'll be able to feel joy when the kids graduate and they go about their business, or I'll feel joy when I get my license to be a practitioner, or I'm an ordained minister, or I'm married, or I'm whatever, some external thing. Joy is what we are. So if it's already something we have, because joy has us, right? It's not something we even possess. It is us. That which is God is joyfulness in expression. And when it is incarnating and expressing itself in, through, and as us, then we are joy made flesh. But many of us don't realize that, and many of us forget that. So the thing is, what reminds us, what rekindles this within us? Maybe it's a sunset, an amazing piece of music, time spent with friends or family members, hearing a child laugh. Whatever that is, the invitation is to gift ourselves with that, whatever that is, to gift ourselves with that as often as possible, to remind us that joy is right here, right now. Saying yes to joy. Okay. So then what is this whole idea of saying yes to joy so that my inner child is liberated? Like what is that whole? Okay, so pause for a moment. Let's breathe, because I've already covered a whole lot of stuff. So let's pause and breathe. I want us to think about a particular Bible passage, Matthew 18, 3 and 4, where it is said, "Truly I tell you," Jesus said, "unless you change and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." Okay. Now, unless you change and become like children. Therefore, and he goes on to say, therefore, whoever humbles himself like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Now, in our teaching, we understand that heaven is a state of consciousness. This is why we say in our we believe statements, we believe that heaven is within, and we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it. So this Bible passage said, therefore, whoever humbles themselves. Now, so what is humble? Because we always think of humble yourself, be lowly, be lowly. Don't be proud, don't be arrogant. The etymology of the word humble literally means grounded, humus, earth. Being humble is to be grounded, anchored and solid in your faith, in your truth. In our language, it would be like saying, we are not bound by precedent, but we are bound by, we abide by, we act on in principle. That's humility, to be grounded and anchored. Matthew 19:4 says, Yeshua said, "Let the little children come unto me. Do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven," this higher consciousness, "the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." But wait a minute, Jesus. Why would it belong to them? Because this idea, now keep in mind, this passage or passages of the Bible are to be understood and received metaphorically, allegorically, and metaphysically. To be childlike is the invitation to be free from the baggage that adulthood typically carries with it. Adults are taught how to be cynical, doubters, worriers, and adherents to Murphy's Law. Well, what is Murphy's Law? If anything can go wrong, it will. We don't abide by Murphy's Law. We abide by the law of mind in action. So the law of mind in action and this idea of being children, being childlike, being innocent, being free of our baggage is this idea of understanding that in spirit, all things are possible. That which is the divine is infinite possibility and infinite potentiality, always, eternally. And what it is, each of us must be, because we are it in individualized form, incarnating itself in, through, and as us. Children trust. Do we trust? We are invited to trust. Children have hope and they dream and they play and they embody joy. They embody the freedom and the audacity to be whatever they are, however they are, in profound and unapologetic ways. That's why we are invited to liberate our inner child. Let that inner hope, dream, ability to play, ability to be silly, ability to have the audacity to trust in the infinite possibility of our lives, of spirit living itself as us. Because when we are willing to let that come forth, let that freedom rise within us, then it's easier to say yes. It's easier to feel joy because we are walking the walk in a more authentic and transparent manner. So pause, breathe, because here we are. How do we say yes when life seems to be saying no? How do we say yes to joy when tragedy arises? Pause and breathe. Because I know right now your community is experiencing exactly this concept, exactly this experience, exactly this challenge. So how do you say yes to joy? How do you have fun and play and be willing to dream and hope and encourage the possibilities when life seems to be saying, pause, breathe, sit, stop, no? So one of the most valued practices that I personally have been applying in my spiritual practice, spiritual ideas, spiritual concepts, is this idea that if I believe God, source, spirit is all there is, for example, then my body is a direct demonstration, a direct manifestation, incarnation, individualization of it, which means I am given insight into the dynamic operation of spirit as I experience it in this body. For example, my body has a circulatory system and a rhythm. Blood circulates, breath ebbs and flows in a rhythm, the heart beats in a rhythm, and this, in my form, in my physical body, is a direct demonstration of the laws of circulation, the laws of reciprocity, the laws of vibration, and the laws of rhythm. My body reminds me of the laws of spirit. So the invitation right now is to pause, breathe, breathe with the realization that you are not breathing yourself. You are surrendering to the intelligence of your body because your body is breathing. Right now, none of us are saying lungs expand, lungs contract, chest and abdomen rise, chest and abdomen fall, expand, contract. None of us are saying that because we would be too busy. We would be sitting in the car in traffic and all of a sudden forget to breathe and be like, oh, I forgot to breathe. I need to inhale. Let me come back. Right? So when we are doing what we are doing now, the body is breathing without us needing to micromanage or control it. So this also reminds us to be present in this moment, because we cannot rebreathe a breath from yesterday or a week ago or a year ago, and we cannot pre-breathe a breath for tomorrow or next week or next year. We can only breathe this breath now, this inhale and this exhale. A reminder to be present. And ultimately what this is pointing to is that the universe, life itself, there is only one life, and that life is God. And that life is present right here and right now. And that life is my life now, and that life is your life now. And itself, it is breathing itself as me and as each one of us right now. Spirit, source, God, the universe is breathing itself. This divine and holy ruach, as Ernest Holmes said, God in me, as me, is me. So there is nothing that we need to acquire to be more divine. There is nothing we need to do specifically to become more sacred, more worthy, more loved. So we pause and we breathe and we recognize that where this begins is as an inside job. So when life appears to say no, we return and say, but I choose yes. My mother made her transition last year, 2020, Father's Day, and there was a lot of drama and stuff surrounding it with family, etc. And grief happens, and mourning happens, and sadness and depression. And through all of that, what I learned is radical self-care, saying yes to the struggle and the pain and being present to it, while also knowing the truth of where I am, who I am, and what I am. And what comes to my mind is when Ernest Holmes said, there is a power for good in the universe, greater than you are, greater than I am, greater than all of us, a power for good that we can use in everyday life for everything. My understanding and my practice of this quote is pause and breathe. There is a power that is goodness itself. It is the universe. It is God in expression. It is vastness and encompasses this great magnitude that is greater than any of us individually, and yet is all of us. A circle whose circumference is nowhere, whose center is everywhere. This power, this infinite goodness, this infinite selfness is being used by us every day, right now, because what it is we are. We can't help but to use it because there is only what it is. So today, in the midst of everything that is going on in the world, everything that is going on in your individual life, everything that is going on in your collective community, you have the ability, we have the ability to say yes to joy. Joy does not mean I am ignoring the grief, the mourning, the sadness. Joy says, I am supporting you while you navigate the sadness, the grief, the depression, the addiction, the trauma. Joy is there, ever present when we say yes to it. It is a declaration that says we are open and we are willing to feel, to experience, to express the bliss, the wonder, and the vibrancy of the infinite possibilities of life itself. And in doing so, we liberate. We are liberated. We are emancipated. As our Declaration of Principles says, we believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete emancipation, liberation, freedom from all discord of every nature, and that all are sure to attain this goal. When we liberate the inner child and the inner and the outer, as above, so below, as within, so without, when that becomes the dominant aspect of our lives and we are walking that walk, then we understand that we are Imagineers, that our imagination is a creative process. It is a spiritual practice, that when we engage in play, when we are free to dream, that we are dreaming the impossible. And from the impossible, we recognize that I manifest the possible. I am willing to allow my dreams to become reality, and I walk that walk. And because of this awareness, we act accordingly. We are known by treat and move your feet. We are known by how faith looks on our lives in action. We become the living embodiment of a world that works for all. And as a result, everyone that we see and everyone that sees us sees the face of God. Everyone that we hear and everyone who hears us hears the very voice, the very timbre, the very resonance of God, of spirit, of the universe. And everyone and everything that we touch, whether it is a hug, a handshake, a namaste, whether it is touching a box of cereal and then placing it back on the shelf, whatever we touch, we recognize that we are leaving an energetic fingerprint. Once again, remember, physical life is a demonstration of spiritual life, of spirit itself. So if I can leave a physical fingerprint, then I understand that I am also able to leave an energetic fingerprint, a soul print, a love print on anything and anyone that I touch, hug, see, hear, and anyone who touch, sees, hears me. In the same way that the woman said, if I can just reach and touch the hem of his garment, then I know that the resonant power of the universe will flow and I will be reminded of my wholeness, my completeness, and my perfection. So in this moment, we recognize that when we do this, when we live and move and have our beingness as liberation, when we move and live and have our beingness as joy, as freedom, as silliness and playfulness and imagination, then we are for real changing the very tapestry of life itself, that there is nowhere that the vibrations, that the ripples of consciousness will not touch. So that means when we do this practice, then the people in Afghanistan feel it. They are moved by it and changed by it. That the people in Russia and China and India and Africa and South America and the entire planet, for there is only one life, and that life is God. And anything that happens within that expansiveness that is spirit must be happening to all of it. Is this not why Emma Lazarus said, none of us are free until we are all free? The moment I set myself free to play and be and know and walk the walk, the moment I elevate my mental equivalent and live, move, and have my beingness in accordance with my mental equivalent, all must level up as well. Automatically, it cannot happen within a vacuum. This is our practice. So anchor and ground and breathe, say yes to joy, because saying yes to joy is saying yes to ourselves, saying yes to God, saying yes to spirit as it is living, moving, and having its beingness in, through, and as us in this moment now, demonstrating freedom, demonstrating this eternality, immortality, and continuity of the individual soul that is forever and ever expanding in this life, right here and right now. Breathe. You are good because you are infinite goodness. You are the goodness of the universe in individualized form. So I say yes to you. I say yes to your joy. I declare it and know it to such a degree that I recognize that you may not feel it today. You may not be able to say yes today, but I recognize and know that my yes, the yes of spirit, because there is no Raymont's voice that is separate from the infinite voice of God. There is only the one mind, God. So what is happening in the mind of God right now, because my mind is that one mind. Your mind is that one mind. What is happening now in the mind of God is fully formed and fully functioning. So as I know your yes, the mind of God says yes. The law of mind and action says yes. And your life changes to match that mental equivalent. I know this is what's going on. I know it, I declare it, I receive it, and I send it, knowing it is already answered prayer. Yes to joy. The inner child is free. And so it is. Namaste, much love, take care, see you again soon, in person one day. Love you.